My rich in-laws convinced my husband I was a gold digger. They even sabotaged our finances to prove it. When their evil plan was exposed, I recorded everything before taking them to court. I, 29F, am wondering if I'm going crazy or if my husband's family actually planned to destroy our marriage from the beginning. I met my husband Gordon, 32M, 3 years ago at a corporate networking event. I work as a dental hygienist at a busy practice downtown. Gordon worked in marketing for a tech startup. We hit it off immediately. He was funny, charming, and different from the guys I usually dated. After 6 months together, he brought me home to meet his parents. The Hendersons lived in this massive house in the suburbs. His father Jeremiah, 58M, owned several car dealerships, and his mother Monica, 55F, came from old money. They also had a daughter, Carrie, 26F, who worked as a graphic designer. When Gordon first introduced me, they seemed perfect. Monica hugged me like we'd known each other for years. She had baked these amazing chocolate chip cookies because Gordon told her they were my favorite. Jeremiah gave me a tour of his vintage car collection and seemed genuinely interested in my work. Carrie immediately followed me on Instagram and started commenting on all my posts. For the first year of our relationship, I felt like I had won the family lottery. Monica would text me recipes and invite me to her book club. Jeremiah always asked about my patients when we visited. Carrie and I would go shopping together on weekends. When Gordon proposed at Christmas dinner 2 years ago, they all cried with joy and immediately started planning the engagement party. The engagement party was beautiful. They rented out this elegant venue and invited over 100 people. Monica introduced me to everyone as her future daughter-in-law. I felt like Cinderella. But something strange happened in the weeks after the party. Monica stopped responding to my texts as quickly. She used to reply within minutes, but now it took hours or sometimes a full day. Then I noticed she stopped liking my Instagram posts. At first, I thought maybe she was just busy with work. Jeremiah completely unfollowed me on social media. When I mentioned it to Gordon, he just laughed and said his dad was weird about technology. He told me not to worry because his parents were just protective and needed time to adjust to sharing him. I believed him because I wanted to believe him. Gordon had never lied to me before, and his explanation made sense. The real problem started 6 months before our wedding. It began on a Monday morning when my boss Dr. Peterson called me into his office. He looked uncomfortable and kept adjusting his glasses. He told me that the practice was downsizing due to insurance changes and they had to let me go. I had worked there for 4 years and never had a single complaint. Dr. Peterson gave me 2 weeks severance and apologized repeatedly. He said he would give me an excellent reference. That same week, our landlord Mr. Chen knocked on our door with a rent increase notice. Our lease allowed him to raise the rent by up to 5% annually, and he was using the full amount. The increase meant we would be paying $300 more per month starting the next month. Mr. Chen had never raised our rent before in the 2 years we lived there. 3 days later, Gordon came home from work looking pale. He sat down at our kitchen table and stared at his phone. Someone had hacked into his bank account and transferred out his entire savings. The bank said it would take weeks to investigate and possibly recover the money. His checking account was completely empty except for $47. In 1 week, we went from planning a wedding and saving for a house to scrambling to pay our bills. Gordon kept suggesting we ask his parents for help. He said they would be happy to loan us money until we got back on our feet. Every time he brought it up, I shut down the conversation. I had grown up poor and worked hard to build my independence. I refused to start our marriage by owing his wealthy parents thousands of dollars. Instead, we canceled our streaming subscriptions, started shopping at discount grocery stores, and ate pasta and peanut butter sandwiches for most meals. I applied to dozens of jobs and finally got hired as a receptionist at a dental office across town. The pay was $8,000 less than my previous job, but it was better than nothing. Gordon picked up weekend shifts doing food delivery to bring in extra cash. The wedding planning became a nightmare. We had to cut our guest list by half and move the reception to a cheaper venue. Monica kept making comments about how small everything was compared to what they had originally planned. She would sigh dramatically when we talked about serving chicken instead of beef or having a cash bar instead of an open bar. Every conversation about the wedding made me want to crawl under a rock. The morning of our wedding, Monica came to the bridal suite where my sister and best friend were helping me get ready. She looked me up and down in my wedding dress and said it was brave of me to wear something that was clearly too small. She suggested I might want to consider shapewear or maybe a different style that would be more flattering for my body type. My sister's mouth dropped open, but I was too stressed about everything else to respond. During the reception, Jeremiah cornered me near the cake table. He put his hand on my shoulder and told me I seemed like a nice girl who would give Gordon good practice for when he found the right woman. He said it with this weird smile like he was making a joke, but his eyes were cold. I laughed awkwardly and walked away to find Gordon. Our first year of marriage was brutal financially. We lived paycheck to paycheck and couldn't afford to go out to dinner or take a vacation. Gordon kept bringing up asking his parents for money, and I kept refusing. I finally found a better job as a dental assistant, which helped a little, but we were still struggling. On our first wedding anniversary, Monica sent me a text with photos of 3 different women. She said these were girls from Gordon's past who had reached out to congratulate him on his marriage. All 3 women were model beautiful with perfect bodies and expensive clothes. She said she thought I would want to see how happy his old friends were for him. That same afternoon, Jeremiah called Gordon while we were having dinner and put him on speakerphone. He spent 20 minutes talking about how marriage was hard work and many young men realized they had settled too quickly. Carrie was the only family member who still treated me normally. She would invite me for coffee and never mentioned our money problems. When I vented about her parents, she would just nod and change the subject. She seemed uncomfortable whenever I brought up their behavior, but she never defended them either. The breaking point came at Thanksgiving dinner last month. We hadn't seen the family since summer because we couldn't afford gas money for the frequent visits. When we arrived at their house, Monica answered the door and immediately closed it again. She opened it a few seconds later and said she thought I was someone else. During dinner, the entire family ignored me completely. They talked around me like I wasn't there. Gordon joined in their conversations and seemed to forget I existed. I had brought a green bean casserole made from my grandmother's recipe. It was one of the few things I could afford to contribute to the meal. When Monica served it, she took one bite and immediately spit it out onto her plate. She said it tasted strange and asked if I had used expired ingredients. She then scraped the rest of her serving into the garbage disposal while everyone watched. I excused myself and went outside to the backyard. Carrie followed me and found me sitting on their patio furniture. She sat down next to me and said she couldn't watch this anymore. Then she told me everything. According to Carrie, Gordon had lied to his parents about me from the beginning. He told them I was only dating him for his money and that I had been pushing him to propose so I could get access to his family's wealth. He said I had quit my job on purpose to force him to support me and that I was already planning to divorce him and take half of everything. The family decided to test whether Gordon was right about my motives. Jeremiah had connections at my dental office and convinced Dr. Peterson to fire me by threatening to pull his family's business. Monica's brother was friends with our landlord and convinced him to raise our rent. They hired someone to hack into Gordon's bank account and steal his savings. Carrie said the plan was to make us financially desperate to see if I would beg them for money or leave Gordon when things got tough. When I refused their help and stuck with Gordon through our worst times, they realized he had lied about me. But instead of admitting their mistake, they doubled down and decided to break us up anyway because they didn't want to look foolish. Carrie had been trying to convince them to stop for months, but they refused to listen. She said Monica and Jeremiah were furious that their test had backfired and proved I actually loved Gordon. They felt like they had to save face by getting rid of me permanently. I sat in that backyard for an hour processing what Carrie had told me. Then I went back inside, found Gordon, and told him I was ready to go home. I didn't say another word to anyone else in his family. I haven't told Gordon what Carrie revealed yet. I've been walking around our apartment for the past week trying to figure out what to do with this information. Part of me wants to confront him about lying to his family. Part of me wants to expose his parents for what they did to us. But mostly I just feel like my entire marriage has been built on lies and manipulation. I don't know if I can ever trust Gordon again knowing that he painted me as a gold digger to his family. I don't know if I can forgive his parents for deliberately sabotaging our lives to prove a point. And I don't know if I can continue pretending everything is normal when I know the truth about how we ended up in this situation. Has anyone else dealt with in-laws who actively tried to destroy their marriage? How do you come back from something like this? Update 1. The responses to my original post gave me a lot to think about. Many people suggested I confront Gordon directly, while others told me to gather evidence first. I decided to take the advice about getting proof before making any decisions. I called my friend Jessica, 31F, who works in IT, and asked her to help me recover some deleted text messages from Gordon's phone. She came over while he was at work and was able to retrieve months of conversations between Gordon and his family. What I found was worse than I had imagined. The messages started right after our engagement party. Gordon had texted his mother saying he was having second thoughts about me. He wrote that I seemed too eager to join their family and that he wondered if I was more interested in their money than in him. Monica responded by encouraging these doubts and suggesting they find a way to test my true intentions. Over the following months, the messages showed detailed planning of our financial destruction. Jeremiah confirmed that he had spoken to Dr. Peterson about terminating my employment. Monica bragged about convincing Mr. Chen to raise our rent. Gordon even provided his own banking information to make the hack look more believable. The most damaging part was reading Gordon's reactions to our struggles. While I was working double shifts and eating ramen noodles, he was texting his mother about how exhausting it was to pretend to be supportive. He complained about having to do food delivery and said he couldn't wait for the test to be over so we could either get their money or he could divorce me. After our wedding, the messages showed Gordon reporting back to his parents about our fights over money. He shared private conversations we had about our financial stress. When I refused their offers of help, he texted them saying I was being stubborn and that they should increase the pressure. The messages from our anniversary were particularly cruel. Monica had sent those photos of other women to make me feel insecure, and Jeremiah's phone call was scripted to plant doubts about our marriage. Gordon thanked them for their help and said their plan was working because I seemed more desperate and clingier. Reading these messages made me physically sick. I spent the rest of that day throwing up and trying to process the betrayal. The man I had married had orchestrated my humiliation with his family's help. Every moment of our financial struggle had been planned and celebrated by the people who were supposed to love us. I decided I needed more than just text messages if I was going to confront this situation properly. I remembered that Jessica had mentioned she could set up discreet recording equipment. I asked her to help me document any future conversations about their plan. Jessica installed a small recording device in our living room and showed me how to activate it from my phone. She also helped me set up a hidden folder on my phone to store copies of all the evidence I was gathering. The next step was getting Gordon to admit what they had done. I started by mentioning Carrie's revelation to Gordon without letting him know I believed it. I told him his sister had made some crazy accusations about his parents orchestrating our financial problems. I said Carrie claimed they had gotten me fired and hacked his bank account as some kind of test. Gordon's reaction was immediate and telling. He became defensive and angry, saying Carrie was always jealous of his relationship with their parents. He said she was trying to cause problems in our marriage because she was unhappy with her own life. He insisted that everything that happened to us was just bad luck and terrible timing. But then he made a mistake. He said Carrie had always been dramatic and that she probably misunderstood some innocent conversations about helping us through our rough patch. This confirmed that there had been conversations between him and his parents about our situation, which contradicted his earlier claims that they barely discussed our problems. Over the next few days, I started asking more pointed questions about our financial disasters. I mentioned how strange it was that everything happened in the same week. Gordon became increasingly uncomfortable with these conversations and started spending more time at work or hanging out with friends. The breakthrough came when Monica called while Gordon was in the shower. She asked if I was still being stubborn about accepting their help with money. When I pressed her about what she meant, she said Gordon had told her I was too proud to let them assist us even though we were clearly struggling. She said they just wanted to help their son and his wife get back on their feet. I recorded the entire conversation. Monica revealed that they had been discussing our financial situation since before the wedding. She mentioned that Jeremiah had some connections who might be able to help me find a better job, which seemed to confirm Carrie's story about them having influence over my firing. When Gordon got out of the shower, I confronted him about his mother's call. I asked why his parents seemed to know so much about our private financial struggles. Gordon claimed he had mentioned our problems to them in passing, but insisted he had never asked for their help because he knew I would be upset. This was clearly a lie based on the text messages I had already seen. Gordon had been in constant communication with his parents about our marriage and our money problems. He had been reporting our private conversations and asking for their advice on how to handle me. I realized I needed to decide whether to continue gathering evidence or confront the entire family with what I already knew. The text messages and recorded conversations were probably enough to prove their conspiracy, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to accomplish by exposing them. Part of me wanted Gordon to admit what he had done and apologize. Part of me wanted his parents to face consequences for sabotaging our lives. But mostly I wanted to understand why the man I married had been willing to put me through hell to satisfy his family's suspicions. I made an appointment with a divorce attorney for next week. Even if Gordon somehow explained all of this in a way that made sense, I don't think I can stay married to someone who conspired against me with his family. The trust is completely gone, and I don't see how we can rebuild from this level of deception. The attorney consultation will help me understand my options and what kind of evidence I need to protect myself financially. I'm also planning to have one final conversation with Carrie to see if she knows about any other lies or manipulations I haven't discovered yet. Gordon has been acting strange lately, like he suspects I know something. He keeps asking if Carrie has contacted me and whether I've been thinking about our conversation regarding his family. Yesterday he suggested we should probably visit his parents soon since we haven't seen them since Thanksgiving. I think he's starting to panic that Carrie might have told me more than I initially let on. His behavior is making me more confident that everything she revealed was true. An innocent person wouldn't be this nervous about his sister's accusations. I'll update again after I meet with the attorney and figure out my next steps. Update 2: Meeting with the attorney was eye-opening. She reviewed all my evidence and said I had a strong case for fraud and intentional infliction of emotional distress if I wanted to pursue legal action against the Henderson family. She also said the documented conspiracy would help protect me in divorce proceedings. But before I could decide on legal action, Gordon forced my hand by doing something so stupid that it solved my evidence problem completely. 2 days after my last update, Gordon came home from work and said his parents wanted to have dinner with us to clear the air. He claimed they felt bad about how Thanksgiving had gone and wanted to apologize for making me feel unwelcome. He said Monica had specifically asked him to invite me over for her famous lasagna. I agreed to go because I wanted to see how they would handle the situation now that Carrie had exposed their plan. I also thought it might be my last chance to record them admitting what they had done. Jessica helped me set up a small recording device that looked like a pen in my purse. She also showed me how to start recording video on my phone without it being obvious. I went to dinner prepared to document whatever happened. The evening started normally enough. Monica hugged me when we arrived and complimented my hair. Jeremiah asked about my new job and seemed interested in my answers. They served wine and made small talk about the weather and holiday plans. But then Gordon made an announcement that changed everything. He said he had something important to share with the family. He looked directly at me and said he had been thinking about our conversation regarding Carrie's accusations. He said he couldn't let his sister's lies continue to poison our marriage. Then Gordon proceeded to confess everything to his parents while I sat there recording every word. He told them that Carrie had revealed their plan to test me by destroying our finances. He said Carrie had told me about Jeremiah getting me fired, Monica convincing our landlord to raise the rent, and the fake bank hack. He apologized to his parents for Carrie's betrayal and said he wanted to make sure I understood that none of it was true. Gordon spent 20 minutes defending his parents and explaining how all our financial problems had been legitimate coincidences. He said Carrie was jealous of our family bond and had made up the conspiracy story to cause problems. He begged me to believe him and ignore his sister's lies. The problem was that I had already seen his text messages confessing to his role in their plan. While Gordon was swearing to me that Carrie had made everything up, I had documentation proving he had helped orchestrate every detail of our financial destruction. Monica and Jeremiah played their parts perfectly. They acted shocked and hurt that Carrie would make such accusations against them. Monica started crying and said she couldn't believe her own daughter would tell such terrible lies about the family. Jeremiah demanded to know why Carrie would want to destroy my marriage to their son. But then Jeremiah made the same mistake Gordon had made earlier. He said Carrie had always been resentful of their close family relationships and that she probably misunderstood some innocent conversations about helping us through our financial difficulties. This confirmed again that there had been family discussions about our money problems, which contradicted their claims that they knew nothing about our struggles until Gordon mentioned them casually. After dinner, Gordon and I drove home in silence. When we got to our apartment, I told him I needed to show him something important. I pulled out my phone and played the recording of his mother's phone call from several weeks earlier. In the recording, Monica clearly stated that Gordon had told her I was being stubborn about accepting their help with money. She mentioned that Jeremiah had connections who might be able to help me find a better job. Most importantly, she spoke about our financial situation like it was something the family had been actively discussing and planning around. Gordon turned white when he heard his mother's voice. He started stuttering and tried to claim that I had misunderstood the conversation or taken it out of context. I then showed him some of the text messages Jessica had recovered from his phone. The messages were impossible to deny or explain away. Gordon's own words proved that he had lied to his family about me, helped plan our financial sabotage, and reported back to his parents about our private conversations and fights. Gordon sat on our couch and put his head in his hands. He started crying and apologizing, but he was still trying to minimize what he had done. He said his parents had convinced him that testing me was the only way to protect their family from a potential gold digger. He claimed he had never wanted to hurt me and that he thought the test would prove I loved him. I asked Gordon why he had lied to his parents about me in the first place. Why had he told them I was only interested in their money when he knew that wasn't true? He said he had been nervous about introducing me to his wealthy family and wanted to manage their expectations by making them think I might have ulterior motives. This explanation made no sense. Gordon had created a problem that didn't exist and then allowed his family to torture both of us to solve it. His logic was completely backward, and his apologies felt hollow because he still seemed to think his motivations justified his actions. I told Gordon I wanted him to move out while I decided what to do about our marriage. He begged me to give him a chance to make things right and promised he would cut contact with his parents if that's what I wanted. He said he understood why I was upset but hoped we could work through this together. I refused to make any decisions while he was still living in our apartment. Gordon packed a bag and went to stay with a friend from work. He texted me constantly for the next few days asking when he could come home and whether I was willing to try counseling. Carrie contacted me the day after Gordon moved out. She said her parents were furious with her for telling me the truth and had threatened to cut her off financially if she continued talking to me. She apologized for not speaking up sooner and said she regretted allowing their plan to continue for so long. Carrie also revealed something I hadn't known before. She said their parents had planned to offer Gordon and me a large sum of money once they were convinced I wasn't a gold digger. The plan was to make us suffer financially and then rescue us as a way of testing my character and ensuring our gratitude. According to Carrie, Monica and Jeremiah expected me to fail their test by either leaving Gordon during our financial crisis or demanding money from them. When I did neither of those things, they realized their plan had backfired but were too proud to admit their mistake. Carrie said her parents were now trying to figure out how to handle the situation since Gordon had exposed their scheme by confessing it to them. They were worried about potential legal consequences and were considering offering me money to keep quiet about what they had done. I told Carrie I was planning to divorce Gordon and might pursue legal action against her parents. She said she would testify on my behalf if necessary and that she had her own documentation of their plan from family conversations. Yesterday I received a call from an attorney representing the Henderson family. He offered to settle any potential claims I might have against them for $75,000 in exchange for signing a non-disclosure agreement. The offer proved they knew they had broken the law and were worried about being sued. I told the attorney I needed time to consider the offer and discuss it with my own legal representation. The truth is that $75,000 would solve most of my financial problems, but signing an NDA would prevent me from ever telling anyone what they did to me. I'm meeting with my attorney again next week to discuss the settlement offer and my options for divorce proceedings. Gordon has been calling and texting constantly asking me to meet with him, but I'm not ready for that conversation yet. Part of me wants to reject the settlement and take them to court just to make their actions public. But part of me wants to take the money and start over somewhere they can't continue to interfere with my life. I'll update again once I've made my final decisions about the settlement and the divorce. Update 3: I rejected their settlement offer and decided to pursue divorce and legal action against the Henderson family. My attorney filed a lawsuit against Monica and Jeremiah for conspiracy, fraud, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. We also filed for divorce with a claim that Gordon had committed fraud by concealing material facts about his family's interference in our marriage. The legal proceedings moved faster than I expected. Carrie provided a sworn statement detailing everything she knew about her parents' plan. Jessica testified about the text messages she had recovered from Gordon's phone. I presented all my recordings and documentation of their conspiracy. The Hendersons hired expensive attorneys and tried to argue that their actions were just family interference, not criminal conspiracy. But the evidence was overwhelming, especially Gordon's own text messages discussing the details of their plan and celebrating my suffering. During depositions, Monica and Jeremiah's stories kept changing. First they denied any involvement in our financial problems. Then they admitted to having conversations about helping us but claimed they never acted on those discussions. Finally, when confronted with Gordon's messages, they tried to argue that everything they did was motivated by concern for their son's well-being. Gordon testified on his parents' behalf initially, but his story fell apart under cross-examination. When my attorney played his recorded confession from our dinner conversation, Gordon broke down on the witness stand and admitted to lying in his earlier testimony. The case never went to trial. 3 months after filing the lawsuit, the Hendersons agreed to pay me $180,000 to settle all claims. They also had to pay my attorney fees, which came to another $35,000. The settlement agreement included an apology letter acknowledging that their actions were wrong and caused me significant harm. The divorce was finalized 2 weeks later. Because Gordon had committed fraud in our marriage, I was awarded a larger share of our marital assets and he was ordered to pay my divorce attorney fees as well. Carrie cut contact with her parents after they tried to pressure her not to testify in my case. She moved across the country and started her own graphic design business. We stayed in touch, and she sent me a card when the settlement was finalized thanking me for holding her family accountable. Gordon tried to reconcile with me several times during the legal proceedings. He sent flowers, wrote letters, and even showed up at my new apartment once to ask for another chance. He claimed his parents had manipulated him and that he had learned from his mistakes. I never responded to any of his attempts at contact. The trust was completely destroyed, and I had no interest in rebuilding a relationship with someone who had conspired to sabotage our marriage. 6 months after the settlement, I used part of the money to enroll in a dental hygiene program at the community college. I wanted to upgrade my skills and increase my earning potential so I would never again be vulnerable to the kind of financial manipulation the Hendersons had used against me. I also moved to a different city where I didn't have to worry about running into Gordon or his family. The settlement money gave me the freedom to start over completely and build a life that was entirely my own. Last month, Carrie texted me that Gordon had gotten engaged to someone else. According to her, Monica and Jeremiah love his new fiancée and have already started planning an elaborate wedding. Carrie said it was clear they had learned nothing from what happened with me and were probably already manipulating their son's new relationship. I felt nothing when I read Carrie's message. No anger, no sadness, no sense of vindication. Gordon and his family were no longer part of my life, and their future actions couldn't affect me anymore. The whole experience taught me that some people will go to extraordinary lengths to maintain control and avoid admitting they were wrong. The Hendersons destroyed my marriage and put me through months of financial stress rather than acknowledge that Gordon had lied about my character. But it also taught me that I was stronger than I had realized. I survived their test, gathered evidence of their conspiracy, and held them accountable through the legal system. I built a new life without their money or their approval. I'm finishing my dental hygiene program next month and have already been offered a position at a practice near my new apartment. The pay is better than any job I had before, and I'll be completely financially independent. Sometimes people ask if I regret marrying Gordon or wish I had discovered his family's plan sooner. The answer is no. Everything that happened led me to where I am now, and I'm happier than I was before I met any of them. The settlement money is running low, but I'll be working again soon and won't need it much longer anyway. I've learned to live within my means and build security through my own efforts rather than depending on anyone else's support. Carrie and I still exchange messages occasionally, but we've both moved on with our separate lives. She's doing well with her business and seems relieved to be free from her family's toxic dynamics. As for Gordon and his parents, I have no idea what they're doing now and don't want to know. They're not my problem anymore, and that's exactly how I prefer it.